Hey guys,
Hey, what's happening, everybody?
thanks for stopping by today. We're going to talk about the 4 things you need to know when you're looking for land for your tiny house.
Dun, dun.
And if you don't know us, I'm Alexis.
And I'm Christian, and we are Tiny House Expedition.
We built and live in a tiny house,
Mhm.
but this is not a tiny house.
Oh, yeah, of course. We're not at our tiny house right now. We're actually at my parents' house in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm helping my mom downsize and doing some stuff around the house to get her ready to do that.
And she's making a ton of progress.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, we've painted rooms. We've had a yard sale. We've done all kinds of stuff.
And we haven't even needed Marie Kondo. Okay, well, actually, once we did make her watch a tidying up episode just to get her prepped.
Yeah. It worked.
Yep. Well, our channel is here to bring you tiny house and travel inspiration and how-tos and advocacy news to help you achieve your goals of creating a fulfilling life and home. So let's get into today's topic, looking for land for a tiny house.
And we know there's a lot of tiny house enthusiasts out there that want to put a tiny house on just a piece of land, on a piece of their own property, but it's a little bit more complicated than you think.
Yep, there's restrictions and costs and various risks that you need to be aware of before you purchase a piece of land. It is possible, but let's get into the details, shall we?
Let's do this.
And we have a great video about someone who achieved their goal of living on their own land. You guys might have seen it. It's Alan, the fly fishing house. So we're going to talk about
Alan.
Talk about that more in a little bit. Okay, so first off, you need to find land. Step 1, find land. The good news is there are lots of sites available to help you find land because it's not easy. There's not like necessarily for sale signs that you can easily drive around a spot. And there's not tons and tons of undeveloped lots everywhere in the country. They can be hard to find, but these sites, and there's even more, and we're going to put all the links in the description below for you. But on these sites, you can search for land by location, of course, property type. Is it farmland, recreational, and other special features that make it really easy. And there's actually one site on here, Land is Home, that actually has a tiny house lots specific tab. So that's pretty cool. But definitely when you find a piece of land, if you want more in-depth information than what might be on one of these sites, you should talk to the realtor and your local jurisdiction, city, county, or both to get the full scoop. Local regulations. These are going to apply to each lot and parcel that you are going to look at. Right? The two big questions are, how is it zoned and what are the building code requirements? So you guys might know there is land out there that's like unrestricted, that doesn't have any building restrictions or very loose zoning rules. That's awesome, but sometimes people forget that doesn't mean that there aren't basic health and safety regulations that are in place. Of course, this varies from place to place, and if somewhere like Houston has unrestricted zoning, well, actually, Houston has no zoning, excuse me. What they do have are a lot of HOA restrictions and deed restrictions. So those still apply. So
that makes it so much harder. It's so more complicated because they have those as opposed to restrictions, other restrictions.
Right. It can get in the weeds pretty quick.
Yeah.
We know there's a tiny house community that started outside Austin Live Work, that was going for a few years. They unfortunately had a complaint on them. It was kind of a dispute between someone who lived there and the owners, unfortunately. But anyway, because they weren't complying with the local sanitation rules, they had to shut down. So lots to think about when it comes to a piece of property.
Mm-hmm.
So
we know that.
Tiny lots. Tiny Lots is a super great little community in the prairie of northern Texas.
Hmm.
And they have 6, as you can see here, actually seven tiny house spots, and there's a main house on the property. It's about 7 acres. And they're one of those lucky folks who have unrestricted property. So there weren't any zoning or building rules for that property. But they wanted to dot their I's and check their T's. So they talked to the county, like, this is what we want to do. What do we need? And they're like, you need septic system. And they was like, okay, no problem. So they put in a septic. That was it. What's cool is they're such thoughtful people that they took it upon themselves to also install tie downs for each tiny house as a safety precaution for the high winds that sweep through the prairie.
Yeah, that's a super good idea.
And they're currently full, last we heard, but you never know. They might have a spot available. They're a tight knit group there, and within kind of commute distance of some big metropolitans. Okay, next up, utility considerations. You probably want power and water. Am I right?
More than likely, yeah.
Well, first let's lead with the bad news. Water and power hookups could cost you up to $30,000. That's a lot of dollars.
That is a lot of dollars.
So,
but why is that?
Good question, Christian.
Yes.
Maybe you found a really beautiful piece of land, and maybe the zoning restrictions are spot on, and you're ready to move your tiny house, but it's raw and it doesn't have power or water. Well, how do you get it? You got to bring it there. So that either means connecting to city utilities, and the cost for that can vary greatly. Or there are other ways of bringing power and water, like digging a well, or our friend Alan, whose house is parked on a piece of property in Colorado, he has to truck his water in. So he built a giant water storage shed.
Yeah, so he has, what was it? It's a 350-gallon tank inside a shed, so it doesn't freeze solid. And he has water trucked in once a month.
I think so.
Yeah.
And he was fortunate, though, that there was a power pole pretty nearby, so it was basically very low cost. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I don't know if it was free, but it was pretty close.
Yeah. So his ongoing cost is that having that water trucked in, so it's a little bit more per gallon.
Right. So there's different ways you can go about it, but there's typically costs associated with each. Like the well I mentioned, that could cost you $1,500 or $10,000, depending. So definitely want to keep that kind of budgeting in mind as you're planning. Of course, the most affordable route is going to be finding land that already has hookups. And of course, you're going to say aren't there lots of off-grid power options like solar? Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
But what's the thing with any kind of solar or wind power is there are upfront costs.
Way upfront costs, yeah. So it will cost you quite a bit of cashola right there in the beginning to make that initial commitment of wind or solar or whatever it is to dig a well, all of those things.
Yep. And here's our buddy Alan. You can see his cute tiny house. He's had a steep piece of property, and he carved out a place for his house and his water shed, and on the back you can't see he's actually got an outdoor lounge space. So he brought in his power, brought in his water. He is one of the few who really lucked out for like an under $10,000, I think, development costs. Alan, if you're watching, correct me.
And also you can see he got it was a piece of land that was on a hill. It was basically just a hill. It wasn't very big. It goes to the top of that hill that you see right there. So he had to excavate a place to put it and a driveway. So, that's another big, a big cost for what he had to do.
Totally. And something he wasn't required to do, but you might be, is the septic system like we're talking about. That can cost up to $5,000. Now there might be some places you could get away with composting, but you want to follow the guidelines. Like you can read about those in the Hugh handbook.
Yeah.
And there might be some regulations on gray water, so look into that also. So all this, like we're saying, can add up real quick when you're looking at developing a property, particularly raw land. And like Christian mentioned, there are other considerations that you have to think about, like making a driveway or an access road. Those are things that are going to help you actually get your house on that property. And there's other things you might need. It depends on where it is and what the regulations are, but there might be permit fees. You might have to get soil and water tests. So this is kind of like the holistic thing. So when you're going into this wide-eyed and bushy-tailed and excited about a piece of property, you might be one of the lucky ones where besides the cost of the land, there might not be that much to do, or there might be a lot to do in a more restricted place. So we just want you to know this because, I think this is why a lot of people don't live on single lots, because it's so expensive to develop. Just the reality.
Yep.
So you can watch more about Alan's experience in our video about the fly fishing tiny house. We'll put a link below and in the card, so please check it out. So that brings us to the question of the day.
Do you want to park a tiny house on your land? Is that what you want? Your own land to park your tiny house?
What is your dream?
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments below. So we might have burst a few bubbles today, I think.
May have, yeah. Yeah, just with knowing the cost. Sometimes the cost is really what, kills the whole idea of living on your own piece of land.
But there are people who've been able to do affordable homesteads, or maybe save up, living tiny somewhere else, maybe in a backyard, and save up to creating a homestead on your own property.
That's a good idea.
So there's different ways. People have done it. So be encouraged. It's just less common and a little bit more challenging than parking, say, in an RV park. Well, if you appreciated this video today, we would really appreciate it if you like, comment, and subscribe. And come see us in person next month.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Yes, I do.
Where are we going?
We're going to be in Atlanta.
We are going to be at the Atlantic Station Tiny House Festival in the heart of Atlanta, May 11th and 12th. We're going to be keynote speakers on Sunday, and we're doing a workshop, which you might like. Yeah. It's called Tiny House Rich Lifestyle, a Life Planning Workshop. So we hope you will come see us then, and stop by our channel on Thursday for a new tour video that Christian has been busy slaving away on today.
That's what I do.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks. Don't forget to subscribe. All right, take it easy, guys.
Bye.
Bye.